Town Hall Academy, episode 87.
I would say in my class that it starts at home. Yeah, I mentioned that most of my students' interest drive them toward my classroom. So it starts at home.
Welcome, automotive aftermarketers, to a Remarkable Results Radio Town Hall Academy. Listen to learn just one thing from today's episode on your journey to remarkable results.
Hello, Carm Capriato here, and we have a very interesting discussion titled, It Starts in High School. It's not hard to figure out that we're talking about seeding our industry with our future technicians. Hey, welcome to the only weekly forum for aftermarket professionals that gives you influence through the spoken word as we tackle a trending topic each week. You're listening to episode 87, and I assembled this panel at the ASTE show in Cary, North Carolina. We were hanging out with the independent garage owners. With me is James Halderman, James Presley, Shane Hawkins, and an impromptu appearance by Kyle Holt. Hey, I want to thank Jasper Engines and Transmissions for the support of the Town Hall Academy. Here are important facts about Jasper. They have over 2,000 associates, 3 manufacturing facilities, 2 distribution centers, and 45 branch offices all across the country. They're all working to produce, transport, and deliver the perfect product. And that's what they do best at Jasper. Keep customers happy so you can. Have you checked out these 2 series I'm producing for you, Geek Talk 2.0 and Shop Talk? They are really hot and trending. I'm positive you'll like them. These are roundtable discussions that will power your thinking. Use the podcast to stay engaged with the talk that's on the street. Hey, don't forget that my guests' bios, links to their previous episodes, and their key talking points are found at remarkableresults.biz/A087. Now, meet James Halderman, ASE Master Technician and author of 18 automotive textbooks, and James Presley, Trade and Industrial Specialist, Career and Technical Education, CTE, with the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction, and Shane Hawkins is with us. He's instructor, East Gaston High School in Mount Holly, North Carolina, and an adjunct instructor for Gaston College. Also, Kyle Holt from SB2 stopped by to observe the show, and I had him come on at a perfect time into the discussion. This panel was with me in the same room at the Independent Garage Owners Premier Event, ASTE, and it was great to spend a few days with this group of shop owners and industry leaders. Now enjoy It Starts in High School. And warning, you are going to be asked to take action and get involved with education. I hope you say yes to this commitment. We need you. Well, welcome to episode 87. It starts in high school. Man, we talk about this so much on the show, the tech shortage, and so often we continue to talk about where does it really start. And, I'm really on record to say it starts in middle school, guys, but, I'll take high school. So tell me, how we all talk about this. We all say yes, yes, yes. We're yes people when it comes to, we have to get involved. But how should we and how can we get involved?
The first thing is getting involved locally at the local high school. Where are the programs in your area? Which schools have the automotive programs? There in North Carolina, we have 124 automotive programs throughout the state. Getting involved with that school one-on-one.
So what do I have to do? I literally, maybe I graduated from that school, so I get in there and I talk to the principal and say, hey, I'm a grad of 89. I own a shop. I need people. I need technicians. I need highly skilled people. Do we need to be that bold, that brassy, self-assured?
Yes, it's going to the school, and the schools are there to serve the industry and to prepare the students for the industry. So they're there for industry and that. And all the schools need that input. Instructors are in the classroom and doing their job, but they need the guidance from industry on what needs to be emphasized, taught, supported, because the student is what is the person going into the industry. So we need that input.
I think it's great input. I recall I am a board member of our Erie Community College board, and I have heard so many positive things when industry talks. The department chair is an important person to know in the automotive program, but above them, where the money happens, where the commitment to the program and the education, is we need to actually talk to the president of the college, because he's almost charged, like you said, Jim, with making sure that we're doing the right things for industry. Do they know how high tech the automobile has gotten?
A lot don't, because that's not their area. They're there to either run the college, or the principal of the high school is there to run the high school. It's the instructor that needs to know the technical, but leadership in the schools need to hear from industry what is needed to support the program. It means a lot more coming from industry saying we need this, instead of coming from the teacher a lot of times. And unfortunately, it's like that. But industry has a loud voice. They're the ones, the tax base. They're the taxpayers. If we're there to support the teachers, it can't stop there. We actually have to support. We have to talk to the next level, way up, beyond the principal. Right, Jim?
Well, I think so. Advisory committee, I think that's what you're referring to, right, Jim? A lot of times the advisory committee has more power than the instructor. They need something in the shop, all they just put it in the minutes of the advisory committee, and usually the money is found.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, here's a story, and it's an important story. I went to a curriculum review for our automotive program in our county, and we got $17,000 a year. That not only included brake clean, but everything else that they needed. And so
because of the advisory committee, right?
No. So here's my point. So I'm interviewing other people at Vision, and they're telling me about their really rich school with a six-figure, stipend to buy equipment, keep their program. And I talked. It was Matthew. Oh God, Matthew. I'm sorry, I forgot. And he said, well, we live in a very rich community. I don't know if that meant tax base or whatever. And so I heard that. I was jealous. So when I went to this review, who's second in command? Provost? But one of the big deans was there, and I said, I really want to talk about the investment that you guys make and how many students we get and how much they pay for lab fees. And I said, I really don't know what I'm talking about, but I know we get $17,000, and I know there's a lot of other schools that are on the cutting edge of bringing the latest technology and the right equipment. 3 weeks later, they got a whole ton of money thrown at them. And I'm not saying but I started a dialogue for them to stop and think about it. So to your point, we have to get involved. Stop being talking heads. Now, from a perspective of an instructor, Shane, are we talking good language here from your perspective?
Well, I agree with Jim. I believe it starts with a good advisory board.
Okay.
We have to meet the needs of the industry. And without them, we wouldn't know their needs. So I think it starts at a good advisory board.
Do you go out and visit people, shop owners that are on your advisory board?
Yes, sir. I stay in contact with all the shops around, dealerships, and
all right, good dealerships
yes,
too. Do you ever take your students out on any open house tours?
I have not as of yet, but I'm working on it. I have it in the plans for this year.
Would that be really important?
I think it is for that that first level student just starting out, taking that first course is getting out into the field and taking a tour of a shop. It's more than just turning wrenches, working on cars. There's a lot of areas in this industry: parts, sales, service writer. Finance.
There's a job for everybody.
There's a job for everybody. And a student who goes through an automotive curriculum course program, they have that knowledge, but they might become a service writer because they like working one-on-one with people, and that. everybody has strengths and weaknesses, and so it's exposing students to that. And I think the other thing that does is it's important for students to figure out what they want to do in life, but it's also just as important figuring out what they don't want to do. And sometimes that helps. They might go there and say, "Ooh, this is not what I expected," and that's good too.
Shane.
Yes, sir.
If you're all looking at, we're all in the same room, so if anybody sees me looking left or right and not straight, is because we're all here having one happy family thing. We got 4 cameras, though. Shane, where are the students coming from that are in the automotive program at high school? Are they moved there by a counselor? Do they have extreme interest? Do the parents want them to be there?
I think it's a mixture. The counselors place the students, but they get to choose on their enrollment card what they want to take. And that's one of my first things with my students is to check their interest, is, see their background. And I find a lot of my students come from families that their grandparents and fathers are technicians. And they do a lot of go-karts and motorcycles and stuff like that. I find that makes my best students.
I find it interesting that you said that. There's no interest in DIY. I want to take this course because I want to fix my own car. You get any of that?
Yes,
okay.
But I'd say on the average, that's low.
Okay, that's low.
Yes.
Out of the, you have seniors.
Yes.
And out of them, how many go to post-secondary automotive tech?
I don't know the numbers, but they're high.
Are you helping them as an instructor find the right school to encourage them for the next level? Are guys like Jim or shop owners coming in and talking to the class and talking about this great career ahead of them?
Yes, I have instructors from different colleges come out and talk. Jim and I recently worked on an apprenticeship for a student and got him placed with the Ford program, right?
Yeah, Ford Asset program.
A vehicle is more than just transportation. It's what we depend on to move our most precious cargo, our families. As a service professional, you provide routine maintenance for your customer's vehicle, but what do you do if the engine, transmission, or differential fails? Contact Jasper, of course. Jasper provides your customers with a cost-effective alternative to purchasing a different vehicle. Quality remanufactured products from Jasper Engines and Transmissions carry a nationwide warranty with up to 3 years, 100,000 miles parts and labor coverage. Get your customers back on the road fast, as Jasper offers immediate availability through 2 distribution centers and a network of 45 branch locations nationwide. If a new vehicle is not in your customer's budget, and the engine or transmission in their car, truck, van, or SUV has given its last performance, a remanufactured drivetrain component from Jasper Engines and Transmissions will provide them with many years of trouble-free driving at a cost many times less than that of a new vehicle. For customer satisfaction, choose Jasper. So why are automotive programs disappearing from high schools, Jim?
They're not. I'm actually adding 2 programs in North Carolina this year.
By the way, it's great news down there.
Yeah. and that's why here, in other states, but in North Carolina, a few years ago, lost a few programs with the economy and everything else. But it's slowly coming back. Everybody sees the value of CTE programs and the need for technicians in the automotive industry.
I bet you find a hard time finding instructors. We do.
Very hard time finding instructors. Extremely hard time finding instructors. That can be a big challenge, and haven't figured out an answer to that one yet. Teaching's not for everybody, but it's a very rewarding career.
Let me ask you a question about that challenge for instructors. Do they have to have a certification, teaching certification?
Yes, and that will vary from state to state for the requirements. So each state's unique. In North Carolina with automotive, you need to have a high school diploma. But there's also additional classes that you have to take. you kind of get a provisional license at the very beginning there.
So I'm a high school grad. I'm in my 40s. I've been working in the industry, and I just would love. All of a sudden, something came over me, and I want to teach. Do I have to have a bachelor's program in North Carolina to do that?
No.
Nor in
How
Ohio.
about high school and post-secondary? What if I come out of post-secondary with an AAS? Do I have to have a teaching certificate in order to be on that program?
It'll vary a little bit. When I was at the community college, had to have an associate's degree, a 2-year associate's degree.
The instructor.
The instructor did.
Okay.
And that the biggest thing with CTE with the programs is that you have the technical background kind of a thing. You have to have 5-6 years of working on vehicles, in carpentry, in building homes. You have to have that technical background because that's what you're teaching. Then we bring those new teachers in, and there's some course requirements on how to teach and education and presentation.
It's great to have an instructor here. I hate to put you on the spot.
That's fine.
But when Jim Presley said, "Hey, I can have an instructor there," I just was all over that. And but we haven't had an instructor on any of my shows ever when we've talked about this. So it's really exciting to have you here, Shane. Equipment. If there was something on your wish list for your students, what would it be?
I'm very fortunate. Our director takes care of our programs. Like I say, I'm going to go back to the advisory committee. We build on what they need. If they need students to do alignments, I got an alignment rack last year. Tire machines, balancers, scan tools. We have it all. So I can't really.
How many students in your program?
Depending on the level, the intro level, I generally get around 20 to 25 students.
I'm impressed. I mean, I learned how to cut wood in shop, right? I learned how to make rubber stamps in shop. I mean, maybe that's aging me, but it was amazing how we learned that. But in your school for CTE, is Automotive Shop the only program like that, or are there others?
There's others. We have electrical trades, nursing, foods, business, and stuff like that.
And Jim, you're telling me that here in North Carolina, this is more the standard, because I know that in a lot of northern schools, we hear it all the time. CTE is going away at high school.
You do hear it, but we're lucky in that. Another thing with equipment and tools is in North Carolina, the State Board of Education requires that all our programs are ASE accredited. It used to be NATEF, but now kind of ASE accreditation. They have minimum requirements to attain that accreditation, the tools, tire machines, that kind of stuff. And that helps with funding our programs to be able to teach. And
up in the north, we have a programs called BOCES, where it's a cooperative group of high schools all sound. Do you do that here? Is it strictly shop class automotive in your high school?
Are you talking about the CTE classes?
Yes.
Or
Are they inside the school, or are they in a center?
Oh, they're inside the school.
They're inside the school, so every
Yes.
school has their own program.
yes, there are some career centers, and that where if the outside schools feed that one career center. It varies a little bit, but the vast majority, I would say 80% of the programs are within that high school.
I love it. So glad to have Jim Halderman, James Presley, and Shane Hawkins here talking about it starts in high school. So let me throw this one other thing. You heard me open up earlier. I said, but I really think it starts in middle school. Do you think I'm partly right?
I would say in my class that it starts at home. I mentioned...
That's exactly right, by the way.
Yeah, I mentioned that most of my students' interest drive them toward my classroom. So it starts at home.
Okay. And how home in the north where I live, the lawyer, doctor, accountant, programmer, automotive technology. So what do we have to do? You know, you're a writer, textbooks.
Yeah, but I started fixing lawnmower engines, when 14 years old, and bicycles and, that type of thing.
But from your perspective, what can we do as an industry to get the home talk focused on this high-tech job?
I think one of the biggest things is counselors and parents realize that a technician today can make $50,000 a year.
Yeah.
And that just shocks a lot of people, and I'm sure you can attest to that too, right?
Yeah.
Now, it's flat rate too. That's another total difference. Not by the hour. It's by you have to be productive.
Well,
and that makes it you have to be efficient, and that's good too.
Yeah, we've talked so much on the show about the investment of tools. That's a challenge.
Right.
The image of the industry and some of the pay at the independent side, and that when here's a stat that I've heard: post-secondary, 2 years later, the churn's almost 40 to 50%, and they're out of the industry. So they're not loving some of the things that they were set up to do. So I really do think post-secondary has to do a lot more about career development, not just teach the technology. Does that idea lend itself to things you're working on here in North Carolina?
In North Carolina, with the middle schools, we're working on developing courses for in the middle schools to expose the students to the various CTE careers.
Job shadowing?
There's some of them out there, and there's already some courses there. But specifically with the trades and industry, working on developing courses because it does start in middle school, and it does start at home too. And we need to support the counselors. They're the ones who do have a lot of contact with students, and they need to help understand the career because they're placing those students in those courses. Personal experience. I went to Guilford Tech, and I love math. I'm not great at it, but I like it. And I was going to go into accounting, and I was talking with the counselor there. And I'm good with my hands, and I always liked to work on cars and that. He guided me away from accounting and towards the automotive industry, and that's got me here today. And that was a college counselor, and so you never know. But I think we need to support the counselors a lot better.
How do we? We're industry. We're talking to industry. How do we do that?
Two things: do you like cars and do you like computers? Think about this. Today's is more scan tool than actually bolting nut turning anymore. It's reprogramming. It's understanding how the system works and bidirectional controls and everything else, as you're finding out with your scan tools and your students. So if they like computers, and a lot of people do, and then like mechanical things, the automotive is a perfect marriage of those two interests.
So we're kind of being lazy. We know all this technology is coming at us lightning speed. We heard Chris Chesney talk here in the roundtable we had just a half hour ago about the scary part of how fast tech and ADAS is coming at us, and the respect we need to give it, and that knowledge, that passion should turn into a dialogue to the principal, to the superintendents, to the counselors. It would be so bold as to
who's going to fix these advanced driver assist systems tomorrow?
Yeah, well, all we have. I think that the opening line is, "Listen, you need your car in order to, come here and do your job as superintendent." Yes, I do. Did you ever have to have an electrical problem fixed? I mean, I think superintendents realize that there's a career technology education gap, but if we, as you said, if industry doesn't push it, the funds aren't going to be there. The commitment's not going to be there. Do you really feel that in your heart, Shane? That's part of the problem?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Well, that's an honest answer.
I could see where it would be.
So you're really saying to the industry, get off your butt and get out there and talk this thing up.
You said it. I'll agree.
It's getting involved.
It's getting
back to getting involved with the school. The great friend of mine, Tom Richardson with ASE, and that says it's all about relationships. And so it's establishing during the panel this morning. Jim, one of the panelists, says it's all about relationships. Relationships with your employees, and then relationships with your school. Shane, with his students, he'll claim those. They're your students.
They're my students.
Kind of a thing. Industry should be able to say, "This is my school. These are my students in this school." Kind of a thing, because that's having that relationship. Does that make sense? They need to know what's going on. First of all, they need to know where the schools are. Is it in your backyard? There's a lot of businesses that don't know what's in.
One of the survey, I think it was Vision last year. They said, "Do you know your local schools?" Yeah. The shop owners were asked, and they go, "No."
Well, just yesterday, I got a text from one of my advisory members. How's things going up there? Sorry, I haven't been in touch for a while, but just checking in. So this is just a relationship.
I love that. The beauty of what you just said is the message is getting out to thousands of people in our industry that many of them are on advisory panels. And what have you done to reach out? I would say that, ours is a monthly meeting. But in between those, that one day, those next 29 days, are we doing anything? I have this great wild thought. Get a bunch of independents, get them together, go sit down with the department chair. And it doesn't matter if it's high school or if it's post-secondary. And sit down there and say, so what is it that we could do for you? And have the department chair say, huh? What? You need a scan tool? Maybe we're interested in buying it. Maybe we'd love to get our name on the outside of that box. Can we have access to your students? Have you ever thought of this? Have you ever thought of that? And again, I'm passionate for the independent. Why? Because the dealerships, look at all the OE programs that exist out in post-secondary. They're a progression where you go to the Ford asset program and Ford's got you when you're graduated. That's the connection. The beauty of ASCCA developing that independent degree program out in California is just wild, because the independents are going to support that program, and the students are going to go to the independent group. It doesn't mean that they stay there forever, but they got nabs, if you will, or nibs on those students.
Well, another thing, getting involved too, is I invite my advisory committee into the classroom. They come in ever so often, especially when we stay after school to work on Skills USA stuff. They'll come in and help me and my students. So
I'm so glad to hear that.
And by getting involved, one of the things with the programs being accredited is that advisory committee is reviewing what's being done, what's being taught in the school, kind of thing. Is it valuable to you? And that's where Shane gets the input from the local industry on what their needs are. Hey, hit this, but go over it quick. This is what I need you to focus on. I think years back, a teacher's been in the classroom for 10 years. When TPMS, the tire pressure monitoring systems, came out, that's new technology, and all our instructors required to take update training, kind of thing. But I heard industries saying, they need to learn how to change a tire and not tear up a sensor, because that's $80 to $100 a sensor, kind of thing. So that's where that input from industry is so valuable to what's being taught in the classroom at that time.
Well, I think ASE has it right, because I now have MLR.
Yes.
ASE and MAST levels. These are levels of programs. And MLR is maintenance and light repair. So you're teaching basically in a high school or some other programs the maintenance and light repair on all 8 areas, but to the entry level position. And to me, that's excellent.
It was great when that came out. Instead of the
Brakes
before
and
we were
electrical.
doing brakes and electrical. And
Right,
we weren't
right.
even touching basic servicing and that. And,
how do you
and
change
this
the
is
transmission fluid, or how do you
exactly. And that's a little bit of my challenge nowadays is the technology's going so fast, but 70% of the work in shops now is basic servicing. And so my view is in the high schools is preparing that student for that servicing. And then that's where they get in the industry, they get the job, and then they go into post-secondary, and that's where it really takes off with the technology and specialization. But the MLR has been a great.
Right. I mean, they're still using a scan tool because even entry level, it's amazing how students can grab a scan tool and they know it's self. They grew up with iPhone, right? And so to them, it's nothing. They don't know everything that's going on, but they can read codes and they can tell the more experienced technician, okay, I have a possible problem here. Now, what do I do with it?
Great. Hey, guys, there's some stuff in the chat that I want to bring up.
Sure.
Barry Barrett says we're nailing it. Thank you, Barry. You're always so kind. Keith Perkins says, hey, Carm, remember, and the panel, some of us are working on ADIS cars today and outside the dealership. Absolutely. We know that. And we totally respect that. Thanks, Keith. Keith is always on with us every week. Thank you for being here. And then Stacy Diaz says, we struggle here in California. I really want to set up a program in our area. I would love to find a course guide that I can take in and speak with some administrators. Is that a possibility that someone could find that? Get that?
Well, in California, in a couple of weeks, I'm going to California Automotive Teachers. That's CAT conference,
right.
and that's twice a year, Northern and Southern California. This year, it's this fall, it's in Rio Hondo in Southern California, and so that's a good place to start meeting or getting in contact with instructors and shop owners at those events.
Great, thank you. A real interesting side note. We really tackled this great. Thank you so much. But Jim Halderman's uncle, his name is Kyle Halderman. And there is a connection to the podcast here, a very distant one, but something interesting. I just want to share that with you. I interviewed Giuliano Zaccato, one of the original clay sculptors on the 64 Mustang, and Jim's uncle Gal was one of the original theme designers, the creator of the Mustang. When they built it on the Falcon, your uncle and a bunch of other designers were charged with getting us some sketches.
Get some sketches for the next day.
And he brought him in, and when I interviewed Giuliano, episode 172, he, of course, mentions your uncle all through it. And I know he still has a museum. He's still alive. Right. He's in his 80s, Jim?
Right. In Dayton, Ohio.
In Dayton, Ohio.
And Jimmy Dinsmore and I just wrote his story, and it's Mustang by Design.
Mustang by Design. How cool! How cool! And when I saw the name Halderman, when I was introduced to you, I said, "Oh wow, there's just got to be something." I went to your website and I saw it there. So
it took a couple of years to convince him that he should sit down and let us interview him and let us tell the story, get the story out. So he did.
So while I have you here, Jim, I got you in the spotlight. You were in the panel discussion that we had.
Yes.
And part of it was growing your own.
Right. Absolutely.
And you know what? We can talk all about the shortage. It starts in high school. It starts at the home. It starts in middle school. But while we're waiting for all of us to do this stuff, there's still an awful lot of opportunity to grow our own. What's your perspective on that?
Oh, I think we have to grow our own. I mean, you can't steal them anymore. You talk to shop owners, and they go, well, I just get the guy that had, 14 jobs in 13 years. I don't want him, and he's got a lot of bad habits or, a lot of other issues. So the best way to do it is to grow your own and start. And the shop owners tell me, and service managers at dealers say, yeah, but they're going to make mistakes, and I don't know if I can handle that. Well, that's true, but you get a chance to, grow your own with your own design of your own shop, and it has to happen. It has to happen.
Where do we find the techs that are willing to learn, these young people?
Well, I think there's a lot of interest, and they get them into the shop, and they start them on maybe some simple service. The problem is they get disoriented because they're not promoted beyond the lube rack for 6 months, and so that's bad. So I think the agreement should be more like the ASEP or the CAP program, where you're supposed to be run through the senior techs or the master techs in each area as you grow in the shop. Wouldn't that be great after a couple of years that you have an apprentice or a beginning technician that's spent a couple of weeks with their best technician throughout the whole shop? Wouldn't that be awesome? At the end, they get the best of the best.
I think it starts with back to the field trips. It kind of a thing. You get the students in there. You get them exposed to the industry. The instructor will know who's serious about it out of that class. And then the students that are interested, then they go do the job shadowing, go for a day or two and work with a tech and move around the shop even a couple of days. Work with a tech, work in parts, up in sales.
Nice. They might say, "Oh man, I don't want a heavy line. I'd rather do the electrical or the drivability or the parts."
Exactly, it gets their interest, and that's also like a pre-interview for the shop owner. The student that shows up on time is interested, kind of a thing for that. Yes, and so if the student's on the phone all day, kind of a thing, great. He did the job shadowing, everything's good. Have a good day.
Yeah.
But the student that is truly interested and shows up on time, well dressed, pays attention, now that shop owner or manager can say, "Hey, now let's take this to the next level." And it hasn't cost the shop anything yet. There's time involved, which is valuable, but then you do that pre-apprenticeship. So the students go into the job every day, working with a mentor, maybe on the lube rack at the beginning, kind of a thing, because that's the basics. But then he works with a technician. It's not being a mentor is not for everybody either. Kind of a thing. It takes a special person. So after that pre-apprenticeship, then it's going into the community college post-secondary to the apprenticeship level.
Hey, everybody. Kyle Holt's in the room with us. We've done a great podcast with Kyle. I'm not sure if you can see him. Yeah, you can see him in my frame a little bit. And you just mentioned mentoring. You don't have anything to say about that, do you?
I'm a huge fan of mentoring. I think it's extremely important that we focus on this. And, listening to what you guys were saying, Jim, you said, what if we match them up with the best technician in the shop? And sometimes that's the right mentor. And sometimes it's the absolute worst mentor you can put them in contact with, right?
Right.
And you came back, Jim, and you said, let's match them up with somebody who wants to be a mentor. Who's got the skills, those soft skills, those interpersonal skills. And oftentimes that's the person that makes the best mentor in the shop. But really when it comes right down to it, guys, first of all, I've loved sitting in and listening to you guys talk about this. I feel like I haven't stopped nodding. I'm texting back to my office that, oh my gosh, I wish that that I was recording this, and thank goodness you are.
That's what I do.
Yeah, right. That's what you do. This need to grow our own. This embodiment of it starts in high school, or it starts in middle school, or really it truly starts at home. Without parents behind them, without the encouragement, some of the students we see at Skills USA, their first mentor was their instructor. And maybe the first person, I know one person in particular who told me the first person who ever told me I was good at anything was my automotive instructor. And that is sad.
Period. You're right. I've done an interview with a teacher in Atlanta, a top teacher of the year, and he told the story of his own personal self-worth came from his shop teacher. His whole life, he wasn't anybody, so that's where they put him. And the shop teacher saw something in him, and he changed his whole life based on what his shop teacher told him. It's a great story. It's a great story. I think if I can remember the name, I'll tell you all in a minute. You stay right here. So Kyle's in the room with us, and I just had to bring you in because I just kept hearing the words mentor, and I know you're passionate about mentoring.
To add to the build your own, talked to a dealer within the past 2 weeks. They were talking about the struggles they were having getting techs to work, but they don't have any of my students placed. The reason being is because they say because of the insurance on young students. So here's what happens, and I explained to him what I thought was happening, was these students or kids are going out and getting jobs at other places when they're young. And then 22, 23 years old, they come back to these dealerships and they've been exposed to other habits or other ways of doing things. And it's hard to break those habits. I told him, I said, you're going to have to start getting these students young, training them the way you want them trained, and you'll have good techs.
Hey, I just want to make another comment, guys. Keith Perkins came back and he said, "Hey, listen, we need for ADIS information." And in fact, it was really interesting what Chris Chesney said in the last, the roundtable that we had out for all the attendees here. He has a very profound feeling with ADIS, and it just hit him. He said in the last 2 or 3 weeks, and it's like this: we need to stop talking about it because it's here. And he's focusing the training that they're doing at CTI on the kind of information. But he made this great point, and his point was, gentlemen, it's not going to be like we used to fix cars, and we had the assumed knowledge that this is how you fix it. He says you have to read the technical information if you want to go anywhere with it. So that's the commitment. By the way, Keith Perkins says we just started a high school intern program, and we will have a student every day through the school year and summer, at least 2 hours a day. We are developing a toolbox for them to use, maintain tool control, daily shadowing a tech. Isn't that impressive?
That's great.
Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah. So there's a challenge to the industry. I think we all need to do this.
And back to the insurance part of it, I have a view where there's a will, there's a way, kind of a thing. It's easy for shops to say, insurance isn't going to let us. And that's generally not true. Under 18, students can work in shops. But it needs to be a structured program where they are working with a mentor. They're not
customers call,
right,
that type of thing.
And there are some restrictions in that, but the shops that are doing it, they're getting those students early, and they are forming them to how they want them. Is that student going to stay there for the next 30 years? Realistically, probably not. People are moving in jobs. Every so many years. But starting them out early, you're forming that student how you want that. And I think when we were all technicians, you remember that first shop that you worked at. And it's kind of near and dear to your heart, most likely, kind of a thing.
Your point is so well taken. Many of the leaders of our industry say, I want to help. I know I may not have this person forever, but I want to give this person a great start. Yeah. The excuse that says, if I train them and they leave, is wrong. And we have to, and I loved your point. You always remember your first shop. Well, there's always got to be your first date, your first shop, your first car, your first house. And many people look back and say, I don't have any of that anymore. but I started somewhere. And somebody gave me a shot. Maybe it was the bank that gave me the money. Maybe it was the girl who said yes. You get the drift? We have to, and to your point, we have to stop the excuses. Because, when I heard that, I chuckled because it's just another excuse. It's just another excuse. Hey, thanks for you. Stay right here because I'm going to give you one of the last words. Thank you. I'm so glad you on the spot. You came in, Kyle. So let's go around the room. I know we covered an awful lot of areas. This was an important discussion to have. So glad you were here. Room, any final thoughts?
Final thoughts. As James stated, get involved. I think that's one of the best pieces of advice.
Cool. Thank you. How about you, James Presley?
It is get involved. Selfishly, you get involved. Shane's going to know the students that are excelling in the classroom by having that relationship back and forth and supporting the programs. If you sit back and not involved with what's going on with the programs developing the students that you're going to end up hiring, you have no control. Kind of thing. So it's get involved.
Not only do you need to be a good leader and run a great business, you have to be involved in the educational process today. You can't abdicate it to anyone. I can't give it to you. I can't give it to you. I can't give it to you. You have to be engaged. You have to add one more duty to your role as CEO in this industry.
Well, also sometimes the CEO doesn't have the time. The shop owner doesn't have the time, but who in that shop wants to get involved?
Delegate.
Kind of a thing. Delegate it. That tech, the tech said, hey, I'll go help and be on the advisory committee of the school, kind of a thing, and I'll bring the information back. So it's not always the owner. It might be the tech or another person in there. It's just getting involved.
Great point. Kyle Holt, last word.
So, Carm, first of all, thanks for bringing me in at the last second.
Impromptu.
That's right. Well, we are piloting a mentoring program here, and we're trying to help make it something that is more systematic for the shops to utilize. But I would say that if I was going to leave with one last piece of advice, it's get involved with the students early. Get the students into your shop, just like what we were talking about. That you can bring a student in when they're under the age of 18. You don't have to wait until they're over the age of 18. Let's get them involved early with the right first employer and help them stay in the industry by training them.
Thank you, man. Kyle's going to be with me on the Apex panel that we're going to have at Apex. I'm really excited about that. Career pathing for technicians. Excited about that. Guess what, James?
I'm the last one.
You have the last word.
I'm an education guy, so I think that the continuous education. Think about this. It doesn't stop in high school. It continues to go on. Look at all the technicians and shop owners that are here. They're this week for this training. It's continuous education. So I think the students have to know, the shop owners have to know, and shop owners and instructors can get together and say, hey, I'm going here. Will you want to go with me? And share that training experience. I think it's a great way of building a bond.
Well said. Thank you. Everyone here. James Halderman, ASE Master Tech, a member of the of SAE. God, that's really a cool thing to be involved with SAE. Author of 18 automotive textbooks. You've probably maybe read Jim in the past. Books are published by Pearson. James Presley, Trade and Industrial Specialist, Career and Technical Education, the CTE Group, North Carolina Department of Public Instruction here in Raleigh. Shane Hawkins, East Gaston High School in Mount Holly, North Carolina, an adjunct instructor for Gaston College. And our impromptu guest, Kyle Holt from SP2. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks for being on board to listen and learn from the premier automotive aftermarket podcast. Until next time.